Okay, so hello, folks. I'm Julie. I'm here at GelaSkins with Jamie in the background. Introduce yourself. Tell the folks at home who you are, what you do.
Hi, I'm Philip Straub. I'm an artist, but also an art director for video games.
How long have you been with us? How long have you been doing what you do? Maybe?
Geez, I mean, I've been with you guys almost from the beginning, so I'm not sure. What is it, like 2010?
Probably 14 or 15 years, like pretty much,
Yeah.
since the beginning.
Yeah, and it's been a wonderful run. But I've been a professional artist for almost 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yes, I'm aging myself now.
Yeah.
I like just the sort of haphazard, beautiful prints you have, just kind of leaning
And like the elaborate
against the wall.
frames.
Yeah, I got a lot of them.
I bet. Are there any standout projects over the course of your career that you're especially proud of or that you feel still excite you to this day?
Well, I mean, it all excites me. I love, being creative, and I love making art, and I love working with teams. So there's kind of two things that really get me excited. One, obviously creating my own personal art is super exciting and fun. It's kind of a emotional roller coaster, as I describe it. I like it, I don't like it, I like it, I don't like it. And then when I'm done, I just sort of have to walk away. But the other thing that I really enjoy is equal amounts of positivity is, working with the teams that I work with in the entertainment industry, helping them bring out the best in their creativity and giving them a sandbox to be creative and make awesome stuff.
When you're creating all of your concept art for video game companies, what does your process look like there?
Well, the concept art for entertainment. It's very similar to my personal work. Honestly, I think it's just because they end up sort of melding. But I think that for games, it's a little bit more academic. If we're in the very early stages of the project, then there's a lot of research that I do. So I typically will do research around the cultures that we're visualizing or that we're creating. Everything starts with a foundation of the real world. So if we're doing costume design, I'm looking at references from costume over the entire history of the human race, and then kind of pulling different pieces to try to come up with something that's unique. If it's architecture, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be kind of having that knowledge base, understanding the movements of architecture over time, and then figuring out a way how to depict that in a unique way. And then when it comes to kind of geology and flora, same thing. Depends on where we think our setting is going to be. If it's a fantastic setting, then again, it's that foundation, and then kind of tweak the knobs and figure out how we can find that unique voice. So yeah, it's always about the research and having that baseline, understanding the world story, as I call it. And then from there, typically it's, the typical art process, do sketches, do color sketches, narrow it down to, the top couple, best options, and then try to visualize those and then move to a final. And typically I'm mostly 2D, but I do bring in 3D aspects from time to time. A little bit more so in recent years than in the past, but I'm still not like a full 3D artist.
Yeah, I feel like the times almost demand that every 2D artist knows a little bit of 3D now.
Yes, pretty much. And the tools are getting easier and easier too. So, and there's a lot of machine learning that's happening across a lot of the different applications. So it's a very, very interesting time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at shows like even Family Guy and The Simpsons in their most recent episodes. They're even starting to do this weird 3D mixed in with their regular artwork, which is interesting to look at visually as a consumer of it. But I mean, if it works, and I guess it's faster and cheaper now, which is just crazy how time moves on like that.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it allows for you to iterate pretty quickly, right?
yeah,
And there's, to be honest with you, like there are some concept artists that are using virtual reality now to
yeah.
develop their art. I have not done that yet, but
Any
um,
plans to?
yeah, I'd like to try it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time management, right? Because
yeah, truly.
I have my day job, and then I try to carve out some time in the mornings and the evenings, and then sometimes on the weekends, just to get my own personal creativity out. And I didn't really answer the whole question. So like that process is the same, for no matter what I'm doing, as I described. But with my personal stuff, especially lately, I'm I'm just sort of letting stuff come out. Like it's just sort of, I just start with a blank canvas and just start seeing what happens. And that's why some of the newer work that I've been doing is a little bit looser, and a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, expressive, I guess.
Very cool. That's awesome. For your art, do you do a lot of it physically or is a lot of it digital? What's
Ah,
look like?
yeah, great question. So it's funny because I was just posting something on Instagram this morning, and so I started out as a traditional oil painter. So actually, my process was pretty detailed graphite sketches on like a gessoed board, which define the values that would be in the image, and then sometimes an acrylic base, but 90% of it was oils. And so that's sort of how I was trained. And the school that I went to was called Pear College of Art, and it's what they call a sharp focus school. So I learned how to paint things realistically, which not a lot of schools do that, but that was sort of my training. And then I kind of had this transition where I was doing mixed media, but now most of my stuff is digital. Occasionally I'll mix it in a little bit. And of course, I'm a photography hobbyist too, so I gain inspiration from that stuff as well. So
And do you still do any oil paintings or any?
not too often, on the parts of my studio that you can't see, I still have my easel set up, but it's just time.
And oil
There's
paint?
just never enough time.
Yeah, oil paint taking like weeks to dry, sometimes months. It's
Yes.
it's a lot to have to consider, especially when you do have things like deadlines to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's something that I hope to get back to, and when I get a little bit older, when I don't have quite the same time pressure. So,
Right. And how was that transition for you going from something that
oh,
takes as long as oil paint does to just go into digital like that?
it was fun. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I learned digital painting when I worked for a guy named Mercer Mayer, who's a pretty well-known children's book author.
Mhm.
And so it was like Photoshop one.
The little
um,
critters guy?
little critter guy, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I worked with him for about 3.5 years. We did a bunch of books together, and so yeah, I learned Photoshop there. And it's funny, again, I was kind of going through some of my older files and I found some of the earlier stuff, and it looks kind of sort of airbrushy and not very sophisticated. But I mean, I'm trying to think back. Did it seem hard? No. I think there was a transitory period where I wasn't able to express my art as I did in traditional media as well in digital media. But then I sort of figured out how to uh, end with the same visual style.
Yeah.
But when I worked for Mercer, one of the things that happened was, because the color palettes for those books were incredibly complex. They were tetradic and triadic color schemes, so really complex color schemes where the color becomes part of the composition. And that really upped my game in terms of understanding how to do more colorful work, which is kind of now what you see in a lot of my work now. So that's kind of where that came from, because when I was doing my oil paintings, they were kind of more tertiary colors. They were kind of more browns and grays and just definitely much more subdued colors. But now, you know, I feel more confident with those complex color schemes, although I'm starting to pull back a little bit to try to explore that space as well.
And by pull back, you mean on like the very bright color schemes,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting that you'd learn such a unique and challenging skill from illustrating children's books, but maybe that's the kind of like theory that underscores successful books, whether the illustrator knows it or
Yeah.
not.
Totally.
I think so. And you know, the children's book space is still something that I'm super interested in. I don't have as much time to do that work, but I think you guys know that I have some, you know, some pieces that are very children's book oriented. And my wife and I collaborate. She's an artist too, and so my wife and I collaborate on some of that stuff. So the plan is to finish a children's book at some point. You know, I've got like 6 or 7 images. Some have been shown to the public, some haven't. And then we've got the story. The story's really, I think it's really sweet. So,
You already started like a storyline for a children's book?
oh, it's already done.
Oh wow. Well,
It's already done. I just need to finish it, and that's just a matter of time as well.
yeah, for sure. That's everything.
Yeah.
Just a matter of time. It's all
It
happening.
really is. You know, when you get older, life gets a little bit more complicated, but you know.
Yeah.
On the professional side, uh, you work in like film and television, and video games as well.
Yep.
Do you have like which of those three verticals is sort of growing the most, and which one do you like working in the most?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's easy, right? It's video games. Video games have surpassed film in terms of, you know, market penetration and profitability. And video games are really interesting because it's kind of a combination between the art and the technology and software side of things. Now, of course, film uses a lot of technology and does broadcast, but it's this very unique marriage because the technology is consistently moving forward, and we consistently need to adapt the tools that we use in order to get to the end result. And then, I mean, I think that the other thing is that these are interactive worlds.
Yeah.
These aren't just worlds that, you know, you're watching. You get to explore these worlds, and I mean,
More accountable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know,
what's that?
you're more accountable in a lot of
Yes,
have to think about the backside of the bush, or
it is. Yeah,
close versus from you know half
Yeah.
a mile away.
yeah, it's so true, Jamie. I mean, you know, and even when you think about, you know, me again coming from a traditional background, like we talk about composition in terms of spatial psychology. So it's not composition of, you know, the still image or even the frame that's being filmed, like in a film. We talk about it in terms of spatial psychology. So looking at the way that humans have evolved over time to react to enclosed spaces versus open spaces, kind of the sense of exploration that human beings have. You know, that feeling when you're, whether you're playing a game or you're exploring in the real world, when you come up, you sort of come out of a forest and then there's a clearing and you see that vista, like that's a serotonin inducing thing. And so we're always thinking about that stuff. And you know, thinking about how motion impacts things and how movement and visual effects impact things. Because really, at the end of the day, like the whole goal is to create an emotional response, and that's the beauty of it, right? Like, you know, that's what I love is I get a chance to make people feel things and experience things that they haven't before. So it's great.
That's
Good answer.
so cool. Did you receive your package of samples?
I certainly did.
And do you have them with you?
I do. They're right over here.
All right. Did you want to maybe show some of them to the folks at home? Show them
Yeah.
your new collection, what you've got going on?
Yes, here it is. You guys
Oh,
sent
oh.
this to me. So I'm gonna take them out. I have to say, my wife opened it, but I didn't look.
Oh, you kept it a surprise. I love that.
It's a true unboxing. Let's see here. Should I take them out of the sleeve?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, you don't need
Just so
to.
they don't get any glare?
Well, they might still, but
There we go.
yeah.
Can you guys see it?
One.
There's a bit of glare.
That's some good glare there. It's all good.
Yeah, this is one of the newer paintings that I did that's way more expressive. It's called October Rain.
Mhm. Very fitting of this call and the weather
and
outside.
and I have good news,
Mm.
Julie. I found the high-res file of this
Did
guy.
you?
good.
Yes.
So
Great news.
yeah, so this is Dragonstone, and this was created for, I forget the name, the actual name of the book, but it was like the art of Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I forget the actual name, but yeah, that's super cool. It looks great. I mean, you guys always produce such beautiful work. Look at that.
Well, you're the one.
I mean, this is your work. We just print it. Right.
Well, it's our work,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's a collaboration. No, it is.
Yeah.
It absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the way that.
After the Rain.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And then again, another one of those cityscapes. It's a lot more expressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
See
loved
what-
all of the detail in the lights over at street level with all the yellows and the oranges.
Oh yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are great.
This one was more like kind of my older style. It was the first painting that I did when I was just like, I have to get back to doing my own work. I hadn't done much for like a number of years.
Yeah.
And then I just said, well, let me try some other stuff.
Yeah. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I think
Love
that
it.
our like group favorite was Ascend
Yeah.
with the red dress. We just loved the contrast that came out, especially on the case. It made it so like rich
Yeah.
and the texture. I
Yeah.
love
Awesome.
the
Thank you.
fabric in that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for, for making these and sending them over. Some samples. They're wonderful.
Of course. I think that about does it for my portion of questions. If anybody else came up with anything.
I guess
along the
maybe
way.
just on the topic of Game of Thrones, since it's such a epic cultural sensation, did you have any particularly cool stories about that experience that you wanted to share? Or?
Oh yeah. Was a great experience. I was so happy to be asked. I did interact with George R.R. Martin a little bit, but it was mostly through the editor.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was really fun, really fun, and I'm glad to have been part of that zeitgeist, so to speak.
Yeah, as a reader since like early 2000s of those books, it was very cool to get to finally see George's vision or his idea and how it contrasts with my own from reading the books.
Yeah.
So many times.
Yeah, they did an amazing job. HBO typically does an amazing job with the big epics.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for everything I've got, guys.
Yeah.
This has
Thanks
been
so much.
lovely. Thank you so much for making time for us and your busy schedule. We really
Oh,
appreciate it.
thank you for making time, and thank you for continuing to support me in my art and continuing the partnership. I really appreciate it. So nice to meet you guys. Thank you so
It's
much.
great
Let's
to
keep
meet
in
you.
touch, okay?
All right.
Definitely. I'll email you later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.